My wife Diana is a leggy, green-eyed blonde. I look more modest. A tall, blue-eyed, brown-haired man with a mine fragment scar on his left cheek and already graying temples. The memory of military service. We are 34 years old and we have been together for 11 years. We have 2 children, Pavel and Kostya, boys aged 10 and 8. I work as an expert in a jewelry salon. I evaluate and conduct an expert examination of the authenticity of antique jewelry. My wife works at a beauty salon. Manicure, pedicure, haircut. She really likes her job, even though she has a college degree. She graduated from the University of Technology with a degree in refrigeration and equipment. I'm done. But I haven't worked a day. Right after uni, she graduated from makeup artist courses, and her friend got her a job at a salon. Lots of clients, useful connections. Well, you understand me. Once a year, my children and I went to the seaside. I don't like the resorts of Turkey and Egypt crowded with swarthy males. That's why we went to the Baltic States and the Black Sea. Everything was fine with us in terms of intimacy, too. It seemed to me that my wife was happy with this sweet side of family life, always and everywhere. That's my motto in this field. At least there were no complaints from his wife about this. I boldly went to meet any experiments and suggestions of my wife. That was all until recently. But then, 6 months ago, her mom got sick. Diana threw all her strength to her aid. Frequent night vigils at the bedside of a suffering mother-in-law had a negative impact on our family relationships. No, outwardly, everything was the same. The soft, affectionately tired sadness of my wife when she refuses to be intimate with me. Well, I'm so exhausted at work and at my mom's. Wait, my love, not now. And a soft, gentle touch on my cheek. This "not now" has become the motto of our family life. Everything is not now, from sex to relaxation. But my mother continued to be ill, and my wife visited her more and more often. And at some point she started spending more time with her mom than with her husband and her own children. Filial love. That's my mom. I'm not naturally jealous, and Diana didn't give me any reason to be jealous. And even though we live in a big city, you can't hide an all in a bag. Sooner or later, everything comes out. But, as they say, Caesar's wife is above suspicion. If there was something I would know, what an arrogant idiot I was. It is now that I understand that cheating is inherent in the very nature of women, that the lives of most of them are dominated by emotions and passions. Rushing into this love pool, they forget about everything. About her husband, about her children, about her conscience, finally. Everything is a chimera. There is only me. That fateful day did not go well in the morning. When I arrived at work, I remembered that I hadn't turned off the bathroom light. It wasn't much of a problem, but I decided to call my wife at home and ask her to check it out. But neither the home nor the mobile phones were responding. I was about to return home when I was connected to a client. "Yuri, my dear, it's Nikolai Mazentsev who's bothering you. Could you come over to my place and see something?" I was offered an antique platinum ring from the middle of the 19th century, but I have doubts about its authenticity. I'll pay well for the consultation. The man who spoke had a magically enveloping baritone voice, which our gender partners are so fond of. Mazentsev, it's a familiar name. And then I remembered. A rich philanthropist. At home in summer, in Spain in winter. He owns several newspapers and shares in the oil business. Apparently he decided to invest money in antiques. Well, if you have money, then we are coming to you. Okay, I can be there by 4 o'clock. Send me your address. Great. Then I will invite the seller by this time. I'm not saying goodbye. Mazentsev switched off. I dialed my wife's number again, uselessly. Then I called the salon. A kind girl sweetly informed me that Diana would not be at work today. Since she took 3 days at her own expense, Mazentsev's dwelling was located in an elite cottage village 30 kilometers from the city. His mansion smelled like a lot of money a mile away. I walked down the tiled path and pushed open the heavy front door. The owner, an imposing, well-groomed playboy in his 40s, wearing a housecoat draped over his naked body, through the lapels of which the graying curly hair on his chest was visible, met me on the threshold. His whole appearance suggested, that he was doing me a great favor by breathing the same air with me. "Please, Yuri." He put on a welcoming smile. "Let's go to the second floor to my office." We went up a marble staircase and found ourselves in a hall with several doors leading out. There was an office behind one, and there seemed to be bedrooms behind the others. We didn't even have time to exchange a couple of phrases on duty as the owner's mobile phone started beeping. "Mikhail, yes, I'm home. I'll meet you now. Be a little bored, Yuri." The owner turned to me. "I'll go down and meet the cellar. Cognac, whiskey, please. Help yourself." Without closing the door, Mizentsev began to descend the stairs. I dialed my wife again. I was getting nervous about where she'd gone. The long beeps of the call began again, and suddenly a painfully familiar melody began to play somewhere. I didn't realize at first that it was my wife's phone that was answering. I went out into the hall. The sound came from a nearby room, and I cautiously opened the door. In the middle was an unmade large bed with a blue silk canopy. A gaming phone with a glowing screen lay on the side of the bedside mat. He must have accidentally fallen. For a few seconds I stood as if stunned, not knowing what to think or do. My heart was pounding in my throat, periodically falling into my stomach. I bent down and picked up the phone. On the burning screen, I saw my face and the caption, "Beloved." There was no doubt it was Diana's phone. I hung up and put the phone in my pocket. He raised his eyes and looked at the bed. The thin straps of a pink bra were sticking out from under the pillow. I gently pulled on one, and in my hands was my wife's lace-edged bra, the same one from the set that Diana and I bought a month ago. I put it in the inside pocket of my jacket and quickly returned to the office. A few minutes later, the owner came in, accompanied by a skinny, sad-looking guy. "Get acquainted, gentlemen." He introduced us to each other. The guest immediately took out an antique Morocco case and handed it to me. I was afraid of one thing, so that my hands wouldn't shake. Restraining himself with all his might, he carefully opened the lid and saw a magnificent antique ruby ring. I examined it carefully with a magnifying glass for several minutes, then held it up to the lamp, looked at the brands on the inside of the ring and the play of light in the blood-red stone. There was no doubt that it was indeed an antique ring, about the middle of the 19th century, made by an unknown Russian jeweler. "I want to make a gift to my beloved woman," the owner said complacently. I silently wrote a report, gave it to Mizentsev, received a fee, and quickly retreated. I couldn't stand being in this house. I wonder if Mizentsev knows that I am the husband of his mistress. I no longer doubted that my Diana was his mistress. God, what an effort it took me to appear calm. How I wanted to punch that sleek face. Fortunately, the army skill has not yet been forgotten. I sat in the car for a long time and couldn't move. So, in whose bed, Diana has been spending evenings and nights for the last 6 months. And the mother-in-law diligently covered up her daughter's pranks. For a moment, despair washed over me. Why is she doing this to me? For what? If I could, I would howl. He tried to pull himself together. Where to go? Okay, I'm going home. To close this topic, I turned left and drove off. After a while, I pulled onto the highway and drove to meet the big city lights that were obsessively flickering with advertisements. I have no luck with women. Sooner or later, they leave me. When I was a child, my mother left me, running away to her lover. Apparently, there was no place for me in her happy future. And now here's my wife. After 11 years of marriage, she decided, it seems, to drastically change her life. To start with a clean slate, so to speak. What is it about me that women don't stay around me for long? My father never remarried after my mother left. He loved me and was very afraid that my stepmother would not be able to replace my mother. No woman needs other people's children. And anyway, a woman doesn't owe anyone anything. It's a man's duty to raise and support other people's children. The rule for cuckolds and henpecked men is not the father who conceived, but the one who raised. It doesn't apply to a woman. That's how we lived. 2 men abandoned by the woman we once loved. And then Dad died, and I moved in with my grandparents. an orphan with a living mother. Women often accuse men of excessive cruelty. Nonsense. On the way to personal happiness, a woman will stop at nothing. She'll sweep everything in her path. Everything, including your own children. In terms of cruelty and treachery, women are far superior to men. Diana. What was she missing? Love? Tenderness? Money? Adrenaline rush? In all 11 years, I have never looked at another one. Maybe in vain. Did she perceive my love as a weakness? Convinced herself that I would not get away from her? Maybe Diana never loved me? It doesn't look like it. All these years we've been living soul to soul. I would have sensed the falsity. I would have felt it with my heart. Until today, I have not noticed any signs of my wife's infidelity. Everything was smooth, as always. It was this circumstance that tore my heart the most. Stupid idiot. Diana had been cheating for almost 6 months, turning somersaults in someone else's bed, pretending that everything was fine with us. Morning. Monologues taking care of children about me, and everything in the end is a lie. I remembered the words of an emancipated lady I knew. Husband, this is a potential enemy. Do they really think that? And they behave accordingly. How is it in bed with the enemy? The outcome was clear to me. I found myself thinking that it was unpleasant for me to communicate with Diana, and I even felt a sense of disgust. A woman who cheated is like an ashtray. It looks clean, but when you think that someone put out their cigarette butts in it. And more. Against the background of what happened, I was somehow too calm. Maybe later, the full horror of what happened will finally sink in. In the meantime, some kind of stupor. It's like it's not happening to me, but I'm just watching everything from the sidelines. When I got home, Diana wasn't there yet. I went into the kitchen, took an open bottle of cognac from the cabinet and put it on the table. But I was in no hurry to drink. I decided to explain myself to my wife when I was sober. Diana arrived after midnight. I'm sorry. Vika, as always, has problems with her husband. I had to go to comfort her. I wanted to call, but I lost my phone somewhere. I probably forgot it at my mom's. Diana rattled on as usual, taking off her coat and boots in the hallway. Hello? She gave me a peck on the cheek. Oh, the cognac. Will you pour it for me? So steamed up in a day, it is inconceivable. You bet. Not every man can stand it here. It's such a load. Work, children, husband, lover. I stared at Diana in silence. I was wondering how she would get out of this situation. Will he admit to cheating? Or will he play the fool to the end? I'm in the shower. The wife almost ran to the bathroom. It was clear that she hadn't been to any Vicky's today. It's strange if her lover doesn't have a bathroom and Diana has to go without washing. Is that a fetish? Or is it better to wash away your sins at home? Diana was saying something, but the sound of the water drowned out the words. I didn't give a damn what she was saying. It was important to me what I would say. The wife came into the kitchen in a bathrobe on her naked body and with a towel on her head. Smiling seductively, she poured a little cognac into a glass. Even for a moment it seemed to me that nothing had happened. So, the most ordinary evening out of 1,000 similar ones. But it's only for a moment. Diana, sit down. We need to talk. I tried my best to control myself. Have you noticed that conversations about cheating always start the same way? We need to talk. It doesn't matter who the initiator is, husband or wife. It's important that it's time to explain yourself. Diana looked at me in surprise, but left the pan alone. Can we reschedule it for tomorrow? Somehow she said uncertainly, and swerved her gaze. I realized that she guessed the subject of the conversation and was trying to stall for time. But I was adamant. Diana, do you have someone? What do you mean? The wife made a surprised face. That's right. She turned on the fool. I mean the lover. Do you have a lover? How long have you been cheating on me? I tried my best to keep my voice calm. A year? 6 months? A month? Yura, what kind of nonsense is this? What kind of lover who cheats? My God, what are you talking about? There seemed to be no limit to his wife's indignation, outraged innocence itself. Well done, he holds the punch well, not a single muscle. On his face twitched. Diana, don't be ridiculous. I know everything. How much, with whom, and even where. By the way, did you find a phone number? Can we call Mom? His wife was silent, gathering her thoughts. It's very bad to be so absent-minded. You need to check if you forgot anything. I put her phone on the kitchen table. Diana's pupils widened, and she clapped her hand over her mouth. Where did you get it? What is it? She whispered faintly. I found it in Nikolai Andreevich's bedroom. I wonder what you call him. Bunny. Baby knee? Or maybe Kolek? I openly mocked her. Yura, you misunderstood everything. Yes, I was at his house, but it was for work. I gave him a manicure. Diana was ready to cry. She didn't even ask which Nikolai Andreevich, so she knew exactly who she was talking about. In his bedroom? In his bed? I admit it. Did you get a massage with your boobs? What kind of tits are you talking about? Diana was already screaming. She must have already recovered from the surprise. I silently put my bra on the table, the pink one with the lace. Diana paused, frantically thinking of an excuse. I was hot. I changed into a bathrobe and took off my bra in one thing. Do you know how your breasts sweat, especially in a bra? You men don't understand this. So there was also a striptease? I was already openly laughing, although it wasn't funny at all. Diana flinched as if she'd been hit, apparently realizing that the excuse hadn't worked. Yura, I only love you. I don't need anyone. I do not know what you were thinking of, but I am telling the truth. We have 2 children. What kind of lover? What kind of treason? Diana fell to her knees in front of me. My beloved, my dear, I'm not to blame for anything. I have only one man, and that's you. Trust me. Diana was already sobbing out loud, unable to contain her emotions. She grabbed my hand and started kissing it. Tears streamed down her cheeks, and there was so much love and tenderness in her voice that it was simply impossible not to forgive her. What can I say? Tears are heavy artillery. We men are emotionally weaker than women. I wanted to hug Diana, kiss her in her beloved eyes, stroke her hair, and soothe her. Really, what the hell kind of treason? She was just at work. Just think. I dropped my phone. It doesn't happen to anyone. I'm not talking about the bra anymore. What nonsense. After all, she is so sincere with me. Yes, I would have forgiven her if it hadn't been for the familiar antique platinum ring with a blood-red ruby instead of a wedding ring on the ring finger of her right hand. I sat and listened to Diana's heart-rending wails, noting to myself that their tone had changed somewhat. The hysterical note disappeared from her voice, and it even seemed to me that my wife was calming down. I wonder what it is. Did Diana take my silence as a willingness to reconcile? Or did she feel that she was able to convince me of her loyalty? It has long been known that women consider a man to be a special kind of Homo erectus, which they study, closely try to bait him and teach him to eat by hand. The most important thing here is that he doesn't bite off his fingers along with a piece of sugar. Well, I'm being so ironic now, but then I was sitting there stunned. The whole point of what was happening was just beginning to sink in. Diana finally fell silent and silently looked at me through her tears, probably expecting me to rush into her arms. Really? What else can you expect from a jerk whose wife has been walking for almost 6 months and he hasn't slept a wink? Diana tried to hug me, but I pulled away. Where did you get this ring? I took her right hand. The ring. She looked at me in disbelief and her gaze swerved treacherously. Well, yes, this one with a ruby. This. My friend offered to buy it. So I took it to try it on and wear it to see if it suits me or... Diana, already realizing that this was the end, was still desperately trying to cling to the words, but she was not doing well. Okay, that's enough. I think you should leave now. Moreover, you have a place to go. I'll file for divorce myself. We'll decide how to deal with the children tomorrow. I got up. It was time to end this show. Hi, Kolya. My wife immediately went limp and, without stopping crying, went to get dressed. She tried to talk to me several times, but I didn't say anything. At the door, she turned to me, trying to say something, but I silently closed the door behind her. When you love, you don't need anyone else. Generally, nobody.